Okay, let me get Windows arranged here. Apologize for the delay. That I was looking for the driver to uh, to be able to get into this unit below the tray. So, in a somewhat hasty arrangement, I decided I located a uh, a 5394 that I didn't think I had. And I realized I think I even got it late without the cover on it. And I've done the other 5394. Um, I did a couple videos of it showing how the PCB in it was a reduced size, and also the components in the power supply. And so probably the thing to do is just to get started with the 1,000-foot view, and to talk about what the 5294, what the 5394, what the 5494 did, and kind of go from there. Um, and as I get in things, it looks like my audio's good. It might even be a little bit hot, but I'll go through and kind of get showing things off here. And pardon the clutter. So the unit that we'll be looking at is this one. In fact, let me go through. Let me get the built-in webcam off. Okay, and I've got my brushes and things like that to kind of clean things up. It was telling me my mic was muted. A moment. Let's go through and just clear some space off to the side here to kind of get things. And I've kind of come up with a kludge when I couldn't find the right driver. So yeah, we can get this stuff. And even this unit is rather dusty here. And I broke off a tab as I was going through and handling it. Where's the other tab? There's one other tab that was here too. So let's put that stuff down. Okay, I've got in fact, I don't have a manual for the 5394. I've got one for the 5294. And it's kind of bad because that started to be nibbled on by mice or something else. I need to go through and check bit savers for one, just to make sure of what manuals they have. And then this shows the back of the 5294, and I think that was one of the first devices that did this particular thing. And you can see kind of like the Twin-X connections and things like that on the back of things. And I'll kind of demonstrate that a little bit. To where 5294, that is the same as the 5200 series for the actual Twin-X terminals. And it was designed to be where you had a link that you'd have back to originally the System 36, to provide, that, and that could be at some distance in the building, or to the point where it was even at a remote location and over modems. And then you had the Twin-X connections on there. The 5294 was a smaller unit, and then this is the 5394, and you can see the Twin-X, the same Twin-X style connections. Got that DB25, and I think that was like an X 30 X dot 25 connection, like a serial link basically, and you could do that over, like I say, modem connections. This one's grimy, and this is even the newer unit that I've displayed, and I have a few of these around. I demonstrated on that in the videos where the PCB component of this is relatively small. It doesn't have a cover over it like I was seeing for some of the other 5394s. And this power supply, despite this being huge, there's only a minor portion here. And like I say, that I have on earlier videos. Now, it's interesting for this. It kind of piqued my interest when I examined these. I've gone through and I've actually dumped this ROM, and I think I have the manual that I got from BitSavers on this as well. That it's in electronic form, and I'll give the link to where I've got that in the directory, and also just for the moment to show where I've got the 5494 stuff. And okay, I have my system. I have to see how my system's running here, because it acts like it's a little. Okay, got it. Okay, and okay, we'll do the 5394. And this is actually just a diskette image, and then the ROM image. I don't have any. Pictures in that directory, and so then for the 5494, which I'll show because that was the later iteration of that, and when they went through and replacing the 5294, the next model number was the 5394. The next model after that was the 5494. So they're going through and changing that almost like an IBM series for the subsequent replacements. And I do have images on the 5494 area, and it is I mean, I even have pictures of this the planar and the Twin-X card as well. I was looking for a Twin-X card ahead of this to go through, and I wasn't able to find one. So the 5494, it was this planar, and I'll talk about kind of, I think that probably it was discrete electronics that was in the 5294, the first of the series, and they went through and they kind of, for the development, they put on newer parts. And this is actually, there's a 80186 CPU, which is of course relatively PC compatible. The 186 CPUs weren't used for many PCs out there. There's a few and everything, but since it had added support chip functionality on there, it wasn't used as much. There's also the 188 CPU, And that is probably, helps a little bit with running the diskette drive. It's effectively a PC diskette drive that's on there. And there's even the PC, what they use as the diskette drive controller for the PC here, or a later revision, the Intel 82077. And so going through and seeing this older 5394, I have a couple videos out there on my channel. We're going to get into looking at this unit, which is actually an earlier model of the 5394 from this, and they use a little bit more. But the replacement for these units being the 5494, this even has an Intel 386SX CPU. And it's got even some of these support chips, these ASIC chips. I think one was on the 55SX PS2. You have some non-volatile RAM modules for holding the configuration. So this is very PC-like. In fact, it has the microchannel bus on there. And on that 5494 directory, I do have a link to pictures of the Twin-X card there. There's a full-length adapter that this Hydra plugged into that. And this is the AS400s and typically had these Hydras with the Twin-X connectors versus the earlier System 36 and System 34 having directly the Twin-X connectors right on the PCB. So a little bit of adaptation to go through and connect on these. This is what ties into the Twin-X adapter that's plugged in here. And of course, your Twin-X adapter is plugged into one slot. You could have even to the point where a token ring or an Ethernet board for LAN connectivity for being more remote, rather than using a modem, a relatively dial-up modem, relatively slow lines, or with a leased line rather than necessarily a dial-up. So this is, just going through IBM adding to the functionality over time. The 5494 was actually in a Model 90 style case, and I do have videos up for that as well on my channel. That's the power connectors for the Model 90 style PS2 that they just went through and replaced the planar of the into a PS2 Model 90 case. And you have things like the SIM, and the SIM is very specific to these units. It's an odd format, and we'll get into a little bit of the aspect of these SIMs later on as I open up this. And I want to see what's below this older 5394, below this steel cover. Now where did I have that? So, and I'll leave my brushes out too. Leave them handy. So this is even a later Twin-X style board of the AS400, to where it's got the connector for that Hydra as well, for that Twin-X Hydra. So this would be, in a sense, what replaced the board on the 5494, that microchannel board. And it went to PCI. And so for all the delay, and I do have a later appointment here in a while that I'll have to go through and make sure I kind of keep pace with things. And just to quickly kind of show into this unit, let's get the Hydra side. Let's get and I may even lower this one. So as we see with the Well, we'll talk about that. There's ultimately SIMs, and there'll be a CPU that'll be in this, and it should be very similar. And these were the same functional level. Just it's just two different generations of the 5394, and this being where it had that steel cover over the main planar. The power supply has this wiring harness come off of it, and this big fan that's actually on a mains voltage from the power supply switch. On the video of the later unit, we saw how much smaller the components were in this power supply, and it actually doesn't have the wiring harness. It still has the port through the metal here, but it's done through an edge connector here. And that earlier video I have on the channel about this is shows all that in detail, where I have the cover of this off and showing how much smaller the power supply components are. And so on this older unit, you have a different style steel PS2 diskette drive, big button, and that should be marked as the 1.44 megabyte. So they went to having a later model diskette drive on the later version of this, and so just going through and reducing the size of components and kind of changing out for newer versions of the components that they had. Let's go through. And I think even where I got this one, I had to kind of make a deal where the person was interested in preserving or having the unit for scrapping using the diskette drive, with the PS2s having issues on a diskette drive, that they were going to take the diskette drive off the unit and just throw away the rest of it. And I tried to convince them to say, well, let me go through and and preserve that entire unit. And I intend to go through and actually get one of these set up at some point. Now, the 5394 can be used for expanding the twin-ax connections from System 36, System 38, and the AS400. The 5494 is just specifically for the AS400. So there's that diskette drive assembly. All this metal shielding around that to prevent interference and things like that. We'll go through and undo the other screws of my kludge of a driver. Very simple, and I probably have these drivers around other places, but I couldn't lay my hands on one at the very end before the start of this video. I would go through I expect to go through and find ROMs on this as well. I want to go through with the ROMs being ultimately x86 code. I want to go through at a later point and examine those to see kind of how those run effectively. Okay, so I've done. Okay. Okay, and that almost looks like a diskette drive style power connection there. I may have to get out a little screwdriver here for this one connecting to. This fan should come away with the rest of the assembly. And I've got one screw there. I thought I had a little screwdriver down here. Okay. For that little tiny screw, whatever the reason that that was in place. I may have to clear some space out of here for, as I go through, pull this cover off. It has that fan. Again, that AC, even a Panaflow fan from Panasonic. Oh, and I was wrong. That I thought that that was the mains voltage. IBM does use the same case for some of the smaller remote 3174s. And this is a little bit dusty in here. Okay. I guess that hooks the metal. I can go through and I'll connect up the and with that metal cover, besides the EMI shielding electromagnetic interference and your radio interference, also with that fan on top of things, just kind of blows that air down over components that really probably don't need that that level of cooling. And this is also a PC style design. Ultimately, that there's a CPU in there, and that's the 186, just the same as the other later 5394 has as well. You have some SIMs in there, and those look like to be the 256 kilobyte SIMs, conventional. And then you have some ROMs that I'll go through and archive. And again, pardon the dust for that. I didn't realize I still had my internal cam on here. So, and who knows what these, it's going to take some odd lighting to see what those other chips might be. I'll end up having to take taking photographs of this as well to have a little bit better. But you know, this is integrated with the Twin X ports being oh wow, that's the plastic is so brittle it's even breaking for that, I guess, for the lip, that edge. All these little plastic pieces, but you can see how full size that board is. And as I say, IBM used the same case for other designs in the mainframe controller side as well. So, different panel connections. I even need to figure out what these little, the little diode on the jumper is, and things like that. And I guess that's not aligned properly. Okay. Yeah, it's the cover locks. Oh, and yeah, those are even have bits of plastic in them and things like that too. Wow. So yeah, and I've got the transfer of all that dirt over to my hands now, to go through and open this up. But I need to go through and I can clean this. Who knows what kind of environment this thing was in with all this. It's not quite like a toner dust, but it is some pretty good coating of dirt and dust. I need to get looking at some of these chips in here and looking at the numbers, seeing if I can identify some of them. So who knows, with some later videos that I can go through and have on looking at these units, like say I'm going to go through and set up at least one 5394 to work with System 36s and AS400s when I get them going operational as well. I want to kind of investigate the remote abilities and see what it takes to link up one of these units for what function it was designed for. I'm going to go through and I'm going to finish cleaning. I'm just going to do a brief dusting off here to see if I can see these component names, or the numbers on the chips. Woo! I still didn't go through. Get that internal webcam off. Yeah, this plastic is just splitting off everywhere. This stuff is so brittle now. So there it is, a bit cleaner. 80186. And let's see if we can. Okay. One of these is bound to be the diskette controller. And then 82. Dash. I can't even make out some of these numbers on these. I'll have to take pictures closer. But yeah, how full size how that board is so much bigger than the later models. It even has a negative voltage regulator, like the twin export required for microchannel, because microchannel didn't have a negative 5-volt DC on the bus. But that's a good view of what that board is. And go through and dust off everything. I want to put this down. So hopefully that was a good, informative little section of what these units are and how IBM was going through and designing them at the time. So I've got my appointment here in just a little bit, and I will go through. I just thought I'd get the live stream started up again and go through and and try and get the channel back active a little bit again. I apologize that I haven't been as active here recently, and hopefully can get started back into doing some videos. But thank you for everyone for dropping in, and I will see everyone soon. Thanks